genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. We've already paid our 87-cent podcasting tax, the 54-cent remake tax, and the $3 tax for daring to touch a Robin Williams movie. So we're ready to go. Matt, is Popeye a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
It's definitely going to get remade.
Yeah?
I mean, the Popeye brand, like, everyone knows who Popeye is.
Well, that's exactly it. Do they? Like, everyone our age knows it, but, like, give someone 10, 15 years younger than us, how could they possibly...
It's true, but I think if you did the corncob pipe and the song, I think, like, I watched this with my 9-year-old.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like, this is so weird. He's going to hate this. Because my memory of it was very weird. And he was singing the songs the next day, and he was, like, going around the house doing the, like, you know, the Popeye laugh and
funny
stuff. So I think there's something definitely to it that appeals to kids.
Enough.
And the brand is, like, it's 100 years old. Like,
it's true.
The fact that we still are talking about it, and spinach, and there was, like, a Wimpy Burger hamburger franchise and stuff. I feel like...
Oh, that's right.
Nostalgia... it's definitely, there's a nostalgia factor.
Yeah, and...
like, someone's going to want to get in on this.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I feel like it would need to be, like... I feel like they'd have to reboot the cartoon first, but...
For sure. And they did... like, the cartoon was... I remember running when I was a kid.
It was running when I was a kid, too. Yeah.
And then you watch the old ones, like the Max Fleischer one, were amazing.
Well, I also remember, like... Every so often on Instagram, there'll just be a clip of some crazy Popeye shenanigans, and it's just like, look at this insane animation.
Right.
And to be fair, that's probably the part of Instagram that I get exposed to,
right.
But still.
It's self-serving. But so I think there are definitely young people, because I teach film classes, so I get like 18-year-olds, and they are aware of like the 1920s cartoon. These are film students, not like kind of regular Joes. But I do think there's an awareness. I think it's kind of a name that people recognize, even if they don't know why they recognize the name.
Yeah, it's a chicken place.
It's right, exactly. That's true too. I don't know if is that connected to the comic?
Be. I'm gonna look that up.
That would be amazing if it is, because it is. It's like, why is it seafood related? Why is it called Popeyes? And it's like, I guess it's got chicken mostly too, but
yeah, but they don't serve spinach.
They don't serve. I mean, if you looked at canned spinach like it's in this movie, you would not want to eat it. It's disgusting.
The early branding of the company, Copeland claimed they named the store after the fictional detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle in some movie.
That's French Connection.
So yeah, it's named after French Connection.
That's insane. all the chicken boxes that Gene Hackman eats in the French Connection. Also IP infringement.
That's crazy.
But why is Popeye Doyle Gene Hackman named that in French Connection? Okay. It's got to be Popeye.
French Connection. Why is he Popeye Doyle?
This is like a hacking podcast now. We're going deep inside the internet.
It doesn't tell me.
And all the research I didn't.
The character of Popeye Doyle is based on a real-life New York City police detective, Eddie Egan. I don't know.
I think it's William Friedkin loved Popeye.
That's got to be it. Someone on the Discord, please let me know.
Yes.
Because I'm genuinely curious.
It's all Popeyes all the way down.
Clearly. But before we get too far into this, Matt, welcome very much to the show. Nope, going to do that again. Matt, welcome to the show. Tell anyone who's listening a little bit about yourself and who you are.
I am a writer, film, TV, theater. I have published 4 books. I've done a couple of interactive plays. I have a new play coming out in September 2024. So yeah, I just kind of generally like to write all kinds of different things. I've written comedies, horror movies, dramas. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you ever saw the movie Popeye?
I did not see it when it came out. I don't remember going to the theater. I remember seeing it like on VHS or something, and I was like, I didn't finish it. Like, so watching the ending, didn't even remember there was an octopus in the movie.
Yeah, that caught me off guard.
It feels very much like Robert Altman was like, what do we got laying around in the prop house? Like, oh, look, there's an octopus from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Let's throw that in there.
Is that what it's from?
No, I don't.
I was
no
going to say,
idea.
because I've remade 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and I don't remember the octopus looking like that. I don't remember that octopus having eyes.
It's got cartoony Popeye eyes. Yeah, so I had not seen the whole thing. I remember even as a kid when I saw it, I was like, this is odd. Even for like 80s kids movies. Like it came out in 1980. That was like a weird 80s kid movie time. It was like stuff was very dark.
Yeah.
We did have Star Wars, but it was like Disney was in a weird space then.
It was crazy because this also isn't on Disney Plus, despite being a Disney movie.
No, it was a Paramount and Disney co-production.
Oh,
they only
that's not going to go
on
well.
2 movies, yeah. So I think it was Paramount had the domestic on Popeye and Disney had international or something.
Oh.
So I think that's one of the reasons it's really hard to find now.
So is it
Because there's a
possible
weird...
that it's on Disney Plus, just not in the United States?
That is possible.
Huh.
It could be on Paramount Plus in the United States.
It might be.
I don't know.
I had to watch it on Pluto TV.
I rented a DVD from the library.
Oh,
to get
that
it
was smart.
because I couldn't find it. I was like looking around. I was like, the library will probably have it.
That very smart, and you didn't have to deal with the obnoxious ads I had to deal with. They were intrusive and bad.
Lots of targeted spinach ads. I'm sure.
Specifically for cats, which I do not have. It was strange.
It's modeled you very well.
Thank you. You can really see in my forearms.
Yes. Literally, my 9-year-old was like, I said, what do you think of this guy? And he's like, he's insanely buff.
I don't think that's what buff means.
I don't think that's what buff means. And I thought that was very generous for how mutant the arms look.
Well, Popeye shows up and he's wearing the jacket. I'm like, the jacket's really smart because it means that when he's wearing that jacket, they don't have to put the prosthetics on his arm.
Right.
And also, you can leave those arms until he takes the jacket off and you're just like, oh no.
It's a big reveal.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams, lest we not forget, was a very hairy man.
He was a very hairy man.
So I'm sure peeling those arms
I didn't even
off
think about that.
must have like been incredibly painful.
This was not a good movie for Robin Williams' hair.
It's barely looks like him.
Yeah.
The hair's dyed blonde. It's shaved down. He's squinting his face up. I mean, he's doing a great job.
He's doing an incredible job.
Like, this is his feature film debut.
Is it?
Yes.
I mean...
He was on TV shows, Mork and Mindy,
Yeah.
Happy Days, but this was his big feature movie.
I mean, you gotta give credit to this movie. We'll definitely say some things about it later, but every single character in this movie is perfectly cast.
It really is hard. Like, the fact that we're remaking it is kind of like, how do you do better?
Right.
Than Shelley Duvall.
You can't...
Than the guy as Bluto.
like, for exactly it, like, they're perfectly cast as the cartoon characters. Right. And I think the only way to do it is to take the characters and not make them living cartoons. Yeah. Like, there was just a random dude walking around town who I don't even know what the name was, but they kept, like, bending this guy in weird directions. And, like, Bluto comes in and squishes him down, and the man squishes down.
And that actor, I gotta say, like, one of the things I wrote down was the supporting cast is insane in this movie. So that guy is Bill Irwin, who went on to a bunch of other things. He does the voice of the robot in Interstellar.
Does he really?
He is like a physical comedian actor. Like, he did a one-person show as Charlie Chaplin for the theater a few years back.
I bet he'd be really good at that.
He's really good at that kind of physical comedy. Ray Walston, who plays Poop Deck Pappy.
Yeah.
My Favorite Martian. Linda Hunt, who has like 2 lines in this movie, but goes on to win Best Supporting Actress like 4 years later. Crazy. Dennis Franz was listed in the credits.
Who was he?
From NYPD Blue. I think he's just a random thug in the background who has no lines.
Probably.
And then Donald Moffat, who is the tax man, who's like classic character actor. Yeah. Always played the crusty old guy.
And like, you see the last name Moffat and you're like, whoa, just that on its own.
Yeah. I love actually the background cast. I think is my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like this town filled out with weirdos.
Which apparently the town still exists.
Yes, they keep the set is still there in Malta.
And you can just go and visit it. No one lives there, but you can go visit this town from Popeye.
Which I love. I love ghost towns and like abandoned sets. I think are so cool.
Growing up in Tucson, there was a tourist attraction called Old Tucson, where they filmed a bunch of like westerns and stuff. Right. And you drive 45 minutes outside of town and you can just hang out at this like trail dust town sort of thing.
Love it. Or like the MASH site out here. Like you go on that hike and you get to a place and there's like helicopters, from the Korean War.
I gotta do that hike. I've never done that hike.
It's good.
That sounds fun. I should probably watch MASH.
Yes. Another Bob Altman movie.
For sure. It's... For what it is, this movie executes on its idea perfectly. Is it a good movie is debatable, but like... It does exactly what it sets out to do, which is create a living cartoon.
Yes. And with varying degrees of success. Like, there's some stuff that's really inspired.
Yeah.
Like, I love the scene where Bluto sees red, and they literally, for one shot, painted the whole set red and got these amazing red-on-red costumes that everyone's in. That's awesome. But then there's other stuff where it's like, you really need, like, a comedic director, which Robert Altman was really not.
Yeah.
And it's just the timing, I feel like, is off. And supposedly he hated Robin Williams' ad-libs. He was constantly ad-libbing on set, and so he had to re-record everything in post-production.
Which is crazy. Well, Robin Williams is famously known for his wild ad-libs, but it's also... He was doing Popeye so well because Popeye's character just walks around mumbling all the time. And that's what Robin Williams was doing. How could you get mad at that?
And it's like a full method performance.
Yes.
I feel like from Robin Williams. Like, he goes all in. And the asides are awesome. Like, all the little... Like, my son was loving it because he was realizing the joke was that he's missaying all these words. Like, orphink instead of orphan. And had a viscitation instead of, the visitation and stuff. So I think all that stuff is really fun. I just think it's like Robert Altman and Robin Williams had an inherent disconnect. You know?
I could see that happening. But also... I'm going to be on Robin Williams' side.
For sure. I think he understood the assignment, as
for sure.
the kids say nowadays.
Yeah.
You know?
And Shelley Duvall, like, I made a joke to some friends before I watched this movie, like, Saturday night or something. I was like, what's she going to do? Is she going to go, whoa, and, like, wave her arms out? And they were like, yeah. And I was like,
exactly.
What? And then she did that. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't even think that character could possibly be portrayed. And then that's just what she's doing.
The spaghetti arms.
The spaghetti arms. And then she's like trapped in the pipe. Oh, Popeye. Whoa. And she's just doing that. Yeah. And it's just like, okay. Let's roll.
That was the unfortunate thing. Because I remember, like, I was pleasantly surprised watching it this time. Because you're like, okay, it's from the 80s. Of course they're going to do damsel in distress. But then for a large part of the movie, they don't. She's actually pretty active and weird. She's like, Popeye, I don't want this baby. I'm going to leave my engagement. Yeah. But then at the third act, it's like, of course, it goes back to all the... She literally does nothing except, whoa.
Well, I ended up, like, because of all the ads, it ended up taking longer to watch the movie than I thought it was. And I ended up having to leave and then come back and finish the movie later. So I went over to, like, friends for a game night and I was like, I'm an hour and a half into this 2-hour movie and he hasn't eaten spinach yet. Like, that's the thing. That's the Popeye thing.
This is one of the problems with... And they did this with the Street Fighter movie. And they've done it with some other like these big properties.
I've also remade Street Fighter.
Yes.
Where they never fight in the street.
Right. They never fight in the street. They never use their powers until the last 5 minutes of the movie. Yeah. And it's like the filmmakers think, oh, we're going to do the edgy... origin story of this character, and that's not what we're here for.
No,
we want to see Popeye eat spinach.
Yes,
he doesn't even. He like is a weenie for most of the movie. Like, he gets his butt kicked by Bluto.
He's only a weenie to Bluto.
Yes. He, like, literally runs away from Bluto. He does the boxing match thing, which is very random and weird.
The sort of thing where you would have expected him to win by eating spinach.
Exactly.
But then he wins on his own merits, I guess.
Right. Kind of like by not fighting. Like, I guess he gets a punch in. It's weird. But yeah, they hold off.
Well, he's winning. Then he's realizing that the opponent's mom is there. He's like, well, I can't beat this guy up in front of his mother. Then he gets the guy to punch his own mom. And he's like, all right, she's knocked out. I can finally do it. And he spins his arm around and it's like, whoop, 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 whoop,
yeah.
Wham! And I think the prize for winning that boxing match was 10 days tax-free, which I thought was how they'd get all the taxes on the house forgiven.
Right.
But then it never comes up.
They're still broke and eating soup sandwiches afterwards. And I gotta say, so with that theme, I was marking down the things in this movie that are not good for kids. And it's a lot. It's like, so you have clearly a kid's movie.
Yes.
And you've got taxes.
Yeah.
Boxing. Gambling. Brothels. Like, all these like, why are these in this movie? Out of all the things you could put in.
Legitimately, it's because they might have been in the cartoon.
That's true. It was a 1920s cartoon.
Yeah.
That probably was all and more in the cartoon. I watched a couple of them on YouTube, and I was like, okay, these are... Like, the animation style, I think, is the coolest thing in those. But, yeah, it was like all the stuff where I was like, watching it with my son, I was like, does he even know why these women are just in this separate room?
No.
Standing around waiting? I hope not.
But, like... To the same point, like, the cartoon was really good about, like, twisting the characters into weird shapes and stuff, which this movie did a little bit. Like, there's a moment, like, we get some of that at the very end.
Right.
When Popeye jumps into the water and is using his pipe as a periscope.
Amazing.
And it's like, great, that is something from the cartoon. All of a sudden, I guess he's got superpowers.
Right.
And, like, Bluto's like, oh, you don't like spinach, huh? Shoves spinach down Popeye's mouth, and he, like... dives underwater and a giant arm comes out and clocks Bluto.
Yes.
Because, of course, my brain's like, at some point they have to do the thing. And then, of course, this is 1980.
Right.
There are no special effects.
Right. It's all
the
practical.
best special effect is that it is a giant rubber arm that's going to emerge from the water and hit this poor guy.
Right. And I think one of the best things about this movie being made in 1980 is they had to build that whole town.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful set.
They sing a song about it.
Yeah, yes, which is less of a song than a dirge.
It's true.
I had to relook up Harry Nilsson, who did all the songs, because it was like, who is this? Were these done on a dare to be as non-musical as possible? And I guess it was very of the time.
The worst songs I've ever heard.
They're just, well, the funny thing is, so the movie got made because Robert Evans and Paramount had lost out on Annie. The rights to Annie.
Okay.
And then Annie's a big musical hit. So they're like, we got to get our musical. What's out there? Bring me what's popular, right? And they bring in Popeye and they hire Harry Nilsson, who was like friends with the Beatles. Huge. But then I feel like this is the opposite of the songs you want in a musical.
Yeah.
They're not toe tapping. They're like frown facing.
It's the, like, when you said your son was singing the songs, I was genuinely surprised.
I was
because,
too.
like, you talk about, like, frat humor, where it's like jokes you repeat over and over again.
Right.
These aren't songs you listen to over and over again.
No.
To be honest, I went to the bathroom during one of them, I think, just because I was like, it's the same lyrics over and over again, and I get it. You are conflicted about whether or not you want to get married or something.
But he's large.
But he's large.
And then, like, nothing rhymes with large, so you have to say, hey, and he's large again.
Her friends were terrible.
Yes, and they're all, I don't know if you saw their name, they're the
No.
Wallfleur sisters. Like, there's a lot of the
Something
names
like
are
that.
from the comics.
Yeah.
And they're actually kind of enjoyable. Like, her brother is named Castor Oil.
I enjoyed that.
The guy who gets squished like an accordion, his name is Ham Gravy.
Yeah. But those are all the names from the cartoon.
Yeah, from the comic, yeah.
Like olive oil and castor oil. And then it's like Mama and... Oh, the dad had an interesting oil name too, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember either. It was like...
Can oil or something.
Yes, quantum oil, gear shaft oil.
Yeah. But it was... Fundamentally, I can't say I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
But I can say that I'm in awe with the attention to detail and the coal oil.
Coal oil.
It was nano
Wonderful.
oil and coal oil.
Is that even, like, in the 1920s, there probably was a way to get oil from coal.
Just like
It's like you feed it to a whale and then you kill the whale.
Absolutely.
And then that's how you get the oil.
You get fresh squeezed coal oil. Just the way Mama used to make.
But yeah, the song, I was trying to think of a word to describe it. I'm like, I feel like it's curious.
Yeah.
It's like one of those 1920s bikes with the big wheel on the front and the small wheel on the back.
A penny farthing.
Right. A penny farthing. And you're like, that is interesting. And I will keep looking at it, but I don't want to ride it.
Yeah. That's exactly it. It's just like all of the different pieces, it is less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Because the parts are incredible. Casting, performance, everyone is doing their gosh darn best. Like the design, everything is amazing. But then it's bad.
Yeah, it does not add up. And I think a part of the problem is like the script is really episodic.
Yeah.
Like we set up goals and then nobody, even the characters forget about them. So like Popeye shows up. He's like, I'm looking for me pap. I had a visitation. And he doesn't look for his pap. Like, he's very much just wandering around, eating, not asking people, have you seen this guy?
Yeah.
Who looks very similar to, it turns out to be the Commodore who's in town that everybody knows.
It turns out the Commodore's been in town the whole time. He's been like hanging out inside his boat and making Bluto do the dirty work.
No one ever marks on the fact that there is a guy who has big bulgy arms and squints out of one eye and stuff.
Well, for a seaside town, when someone who doesn't live in the seaside town shows up, they're just like, a weirdo's here, a stranger, can't have that, everyone talk about this, shun the outsider.
Another weird thing about this movie where it's like the hero of your movie is despised by everybody in the movie.
Until the last 5 minutes or so.
Like most of the runtime.
For no reason.
But except for the person who gives him the baby, which is also like, why does that
we never
happen?
meet. We don't know why that happens. It's
not
to the one-eyed sailor. I need you to be a caring mother because only a mother can care as much as a mother can. Signed, a loving mother. Anyway, here's my baby or something. And, it's
he takes the baby.
And I was like, what is this? And then I remember that Sweet Pea's from the cartoon.
Yeah.
And I remember that like old Poop Deck Pappy's also in the cartoon.
Yeah.
Which is just old Popeye. And
which I gotta say, Ray Walston, who plays him in the movie, also does a great job.
He does an incredible job.
He and Robin Williams, like, literally are like father and son.
Oh, yeah. Hell, I thought Sweet Pea did an amazing job.
Sweet Pea's amazing, and I guess it's like Robert Altman's grandson. I was reading the Wikipedia page.
Well,
so
he's never done anything else, really.
Right.
Like, he's in this movie. I think he's a baby in some other movie. And then that's it. The baby's name is Wesley Ivan Hurt. And
old enough now to play Popeye in the remake?
I don't know what he looks like. He is in this. He's in... Oh, no. I take it back. He had a role in... He was Lou Hart in an episode of River City in 2020.
Wow, recent.
And those are his 2 jobs ever. He's also in archive footage for some documentary called Altman or something. But, like, yeah, he's Sweet Pea and Popeye. 40 years later, he has, like, a walk-on role. I'm sure it's a reference.
Right. I got the bug again. They wrapped him up as, like, a 45-year-old man in, like, a swaddle and stuff.
I'm not familiar with this show, River City, at all.
Never heard of it.
But,
it sounds like a Canadian procedural.
Well, what's the really interesting thing is that it says it started in 2002 and does not have an end date. But it's a BBC show.
Okay.
So I think that's why, and that there have been 26 seasons of this show.
Amazing. So it's like a BBC soap opera.
Yeah, the top credit is Sally Howitt, who plays Scarlett O'Hara, for 403 episodes.
Wow.
Stephen Purdon is 1 episode behind on 402, playing Bob O'Hara.
This is clearly a companion podcast you have to do, is a rewatch of Rivers.
I'm not going to watch River City.
River City.
The logline is drama series set in a close-knit Glasgow community. That's it. That's all we got.
Love it. No drama.
It's just another British show that we've never heard of.
That's awesome.
That's incredible. Okay, so fundamentally what happens in this movie. We don't have to necessarily go over every single beat, but...
There's like 4 beats.
Popeye gets to town. He has to pay a bunch of taxes to store his boat.
Right. Which, again, kids love taxes.
Kids love
so
taxes.
Right off the bat.
And then he wanders through town, all these different hotels that have vacancy signs up. As soon as he walks past, switch to no vacancy.
All shunning him, yeah.
We also get an inconsistency of he almost gets hit by a piano, but he bends down because he finds this pipe. And then he's like, oh, his piano almost hit me. And he pushes it. And he basically, like, he's so strong that the piano, like, flips around and lands back on the people, which is crazy.
Right. This is his save the cat moment. He does this
establishing that he has super strength.
Which he never uses until the very end of the movie.
Until the very end of the movie. Yeah. Like, well, no, he uses it when he, like, knocks out the wrestler.
Right. Yeah. He does the spin up with the punch. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I can't decide if he's a superhero or not. Which would lead you to say something along the lines of...
Well, I came on here, we're going to be breaking news. We have a new thing. I think, because I was doing research, I think Popeye could be qualified as a superhero. And he predates Superman, who's often credited as like the first comic book superhero, by 10 years. Like they were doing the Popeye cartoons in comics in 1929, and Superman was 1938. And I think if you look at Popeye... He's got the iconic outfit.
He's got an outfit.
He's got
which
the
has
physical.
A cape.
He's got a little cape. He has the thing of like, I get my powers when I eats me spinach. And if he doesn't have spinach, he's like low energy, like the kryptonite for Superman. So yeah, I think we're starting some new thesis arguments here.
I mean, I feel like it's going to be stuff like Hercules or like those old Bible like Greek stories or whatever. Because like the first comics are always going to be adaptations of things that exist, and like Beowulf or Hercules and all those different things.
Totally.
But like in terms of original characters, it might be Popeye. Because I don't know what Popeye is based on.
I found that there was a picture of a real sailor, I guess, who had this like big kind of lantern jaw with a pipe. And supposedly the guy who created Popeye like saw that picture and was like, I'm going to make this guy a new character. Yeah.
Great. So Popeye gets to town. He randomly finds a lady who is like, yeah, sure, come stay with me. We've got a spare room. And it turns out that's Nana Oil. And then Olive Oil comes downstairs because she's all a Twitter because she's having like an engagement party tonight for the 3rd time.
Right.
And this time she's really going to do it. She's really going to marry that Bluto.
Oh, but his hat is so ugly. Like, she talks about, in terms of not introducing your characters in a likable way,
yeah,
Olive Oil is super annoying in the introduction.
Immediately.
She's talking about how ugly she is. She hates her family. She sees Popeye. She's like, what are you doing listening to our conversation?
All she does is complain.
Yeah.
But then I think back to the cartoon. I'm like, yeah, that's what the cartoon character did.
Totally.
But it also helps that every single person in this entire town is insane.
Yes.
There is not a single mentally stable person in this entire movie. No exceptions.
Yeah. Yeah. everyone has, and it's interesting to think about that way, that they all ended up in Sweet Haven because they were kicked out of other towns.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
They were like the crazy one in that town, and they all had to like come here.
It would make sense to me. This is Italy's version of a leper town or something.
Yes.
But yeah, so then we find out all of that. Popeye keeps getting kind of knocked around, having to pay taxes, trying to get a burger, complaining that he's going there to visit his pappy, but then
the amazing food song. Food, everything is food. The classic phrase that we all say when we eat breakfast in the morning.
Literally, I had no idea what you were talking about until you said food, everything is food. I was like, oh yeah, that song was there.
And they do get in the classic wimpy line, which my son was re-singing, which was I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
It's the only wimpy line anyone knows.
Yeah. And I think they wrote the whole song just to get that line in there.
Obviously.
With like the rhythm of it. Because everything is food, food, food. Everything is food.
But then
I don't even know what that means.
What really should have been is that like everything in this town is burgers, because it seemed like that was the only thing anyone was eating.
That's all they make, right?
Yeah. And like there was a sign up that says no coupons, especially you, Wimpy.
So we all know about Wimpy and his, excitement for hamburgers, but
food in general, because when Nana's serving dinner, he's like, "I will please pass the chicken and the fish and the shrimp." Shovel, shovel, shovel. And like by the time anything makes it to Popeye, he's like, well, I wasn't really hungry anyway. I wasn't really hungry anyways. And like that's kind of what happens. And then Bluto, like in his long underwear, like gets off his little boat and shouts, like in the deepest voice, like, it's 9 p.m. curfew, lights out. Right. And just systematically the entire town shuts down. And Popeye's like, oh, I'll be reunited with me soon, me pap.
Which my son did like the joke of, he's looking at the picture of his pap, and then you reveal it's just writing that says, me pap.
Me?
Not an actual...
Me? Papa.
Yeah, me papa.
I also enjoyed that joke. That was very funny to me.
Like, that's not even a picture.
No.
And then later on, when you meet his pap, he has the same picture, but it's me son. Which is great.
It was good. I enjoyed that a lot. And then it's just kind of shenanigans, I guess.
Yeah, long sequence of the food, and like Popeye's trying to tell a story. No one wants to listen to him.
And then they make fun of him for missing his dad.
Right. And then they kind of have a fight. But Popeye doesn't really fight in it. He's more like dodging people a little bit. I guess he's throwing them around a little.
The important thing is that he like kicks their ass.
He wins.
Yeah.
And then there's Olive's engagement party, which she doesn't want to be at.
Yeah.
Because she's singing this terrible song, He's Large. She's like trying to talk about the qualities of why Bluto is a good guy to marry, and she can only settle on he's large.
But like no one's even trying to talk her into it, because everyone is excited for her to marry Bluto except for the 4 people she considers her friends.
Right.
Who keep making fun of her for being into Bluto.
Right.
And it's like, why are you here?
Yeah, none of it makes sense. And it's like, why, if this is your 3rd time, why do you keep agreeing to do it if you don't want to do it?
Bluto's clearly into her.
Right, yes.
And like they keep waiting for her to show up, and then she bounces because Popeye also wasn't welcome. And they like run into each other and then find a baby. And, like, meanwhile, Bluto's getting madder and madder and is systematically tearing apart this house and beating up everyone inside.
While singing the amazing song, again, I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Again, rhyming the same word with itself.
Correct.
Which is the classic.
And definitely being sung by someone who is not that actor.
Yeah, amazing.
No chance that was that actor.
I think that guy is probably, like, they found him in Malta and threw him in there, and then all the stuff in post is, like, Ray Walston or somebody.
Something like that.
The Cowardly Lion is re-recorded.
So basically, we find the town is run by this tax guy / Bluto, but they both work for the Commodore, who's collecting taxes but is hiding in, and he's like, and eventually, like, we find out that Sweet Pea is able to, like, predict the future for some reason, and Wimpy steals him to go win some races, but Bluto sees this. He steals Sweet Pea, brings him back to the Commodore, and then ties up the Commodore, who it turns out is Popeye's dad, and uses Sweet Pea to get to the Commodore's treasure that he's been promising Bluto all these years. And then Popeye shows up, and the dad's like, but I can never get you to eat your spinach, because you never were willing to do it, you couldn't do it, you hated spinach. And Popeye's like, yeah, because it's gross. And he's like, no, it's our family legacy.
But the great thing is, he was 2, I think?
Yeah.
When he abandoned him? So
correct.
This was a 2-year-old refusing to eat his spinach.
Correct.
And he's like, that's enough for me to abandon you.
Yes.
And leave you as an orphan. And I guess there's a little, if there's any kind of themes in this movie, there's some themes
he got arrested stealing food for his child, and he got sent away and then never came back.
That. But it's like he never even tries to come back. He's been at this island hiding out, never tried to find his kid. even sings a song. Another great thing that kids love is a song about how much kids suck.
Yep.
And which the Pappy sings. That's our introduction to Pappy. And then, yeah, they basically...
He sings the song while feeding Sweet Pea.
Right. And getting, like, tied up by Bluto. Or is that a different... That's a different song. No, he gets
tied up by Bluto.
Right.
Either way.
So then Bluto steals Sweet Pea and goes off to find this treasure, which is literally on an island right near this other
it's
port town.
Knife Edge Island or something like that. I don't know.
It's a Deus Ex Machina island. And then the only scene of sailing in the whole movie is Popeye on a boat, not a sailing boat, but like a steamship chasing Bluto.
He arrives on a boat.
Very slowly. He does. He arrives on a rowboat.
He arrives on a dinghy or whatever it is.
Which I guess he says he was in like a shipwreck or something.
No, because he was specifically going to that town. He said, I was drawn to this town because I had a feeling me Papa was here.
A visitation. And then there's like the classic 3-act. He's kidnapped Olive Oil. Yeah. Popeye has to rescue Olive Oil. He eats the spinach.
Well, no, he refuses to eat the spinach. And then Bluto goes, oh, you don't like spinach, do you? I hates it. And then Bluto cracks open the can, grabs a handful of spinach and shoves it in Popeye's mouth. Popeye drops to the bottom of the lagoon. And then a giant arm comes out and clocks Bluto because he got his...
hoisted on your own petard,
meanwhile,
spinach.
Olive Oil was getting dragged down under the water by the octopus, and then Popeye goes over and saves her from the octopus. Bluto is now in a yellow costume because he's running away scared. He turned yellow!
Another great comedic visual joke by Bob Altman.
And then we find out that Poop Deck Pappy's treasure is a bunch of spinach, baby toys, and a photo that says, me, son.
Which I guess means he cared the whole time.
He cared the whole time,
which
I guess.
Makes the child abandonment fine.
And then Popeye sings what can only be described as a song.
Which is the classic Popeye song that we don't get until the very end of the movie.
That was the Popeye the Sailor Man?
Yeah, he sings it's like this movie's version of the Popeye the Sailor Man.
Yeah.
But he's literally walking on water like Jesus. Like, he's dancing on top of the water, and he's doing backflips, and he's singing the Popeye song and doing the corncob toot toot.
It's true.
Corncob pipe.
Wild.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do?
Well, I mean, we've already agreed, right? This should be remade. Like, this is, in today's day and age, we're remaking shit nobody's ever heard of.
Sure.
I feel like there's enough people that have heard of Popeye.
Popeye is an IP, therefore, here we go.
But it's also like, there's interesting things about Popeye. Like, I think there is potential for fun action.
Oh, for sure.
And fun comedic fights and stuff.
Yeah, it needs to be an action comedy.
Yeah.
But I feel like it needs to be with like a bunch of weird characters, but they need to not be insane. And I don't know that you need Popeye. I don't think you need any of the characters to like be a cartoon.
Yeah. Unless you animate it.
Well, I think you can have elements of animation because like you have a moment when Popeye first gets clobbered by Bluto. He's standing there and it's like, oh, look at all the little birds. I think you can show the birds.
That would be fun.
I think you can have things like that. Like, I think you could absolutely turn this around and make it like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit blending of animation and reality.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was thinking like, because I think the difficulty of the assignment is higher if you do it live action.
I agree.
Like, how do you capture that kind of manic Popeye energy and the arms and the spinach?
Well, that's the question. Do you want to make a live action movie or an animated movie?
I mean, I think if I were doing it, I would kind of go for animation. But I think if you're going to do it live action, you have to get somebody like Edgar Wright, like, to direct it.
We'll get to that part later.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about, like, what do we want to happen in the movie? Like, because I think if we're doing that, like, I think you can have a moment where, like, when Popeye eats spinach, like, the spinach can travel down in cartoon form.
Awesome.
And instead of having, like, some weird prosthetic arm, like, he can... Or doing, like, some CGI arm. It's just literally a 2D animated cartoon arm, and that's what clobbers the guy.
I remember very strongly from when I was a kid that when Popeye would flex his arm muscle, within the bicep there would be, like...
a can of spinach.
Factories, churning out power, or, like, an oil rig or something. And I was
100%.
That's an awesome like way to visualize the interior of the body. So that would be really cool. I actually like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I also think that the things that you need, like, if you want to have a live-action cartoon, I think one of the things you need in those sometimes are, like, I'm thinking of the wrong kind of thing, a Rube Goldberg machine. Mm-hmm. Just, like, because Rube Goldberg machines are themselves based on cartoons, like, because they were cartoons and animated and stuff. And if you're gonna, like, lean into that a little bit, like, you're gonna have to, like, have weirdness. Right. And, like, it is our world, but slightly different.
Yeah, I like for sure.
But that's, like... set dressing and stuff. What do we want our plot to be? Do we want Popeye to be showing up to a random town he's never been to before? Because we certainly can't do that.
I mean, one of the things I think would be fun for kids, because I think it is a kid, you're not going to do like the gritty version of Popeye, like the Guy Ritchie Popeye.
Although that would be hysterical, but that's like that's an old college humor bit.
Right, exactly. It's like 2 minutes that lasts for.
Yeah.
But I think it's really fun, like when kids love treasure and treasure chests and treasure hunts and stuff. So if he shows up to town because he's got this treasure map, his dad has left him. It's the only thing his dad left him. And he can't find his dad, but he thinks if he can find his dad's treasure, he can know a little bit something about who he is and who his dad is. And he comes to this town because it's on the map. And then he can start being active and talking to people like, what do you know about this treasure? What do you know about my dad? What was my dad like?
Have any of you seen a large X?
Yes, and you could do like, there's X's all over the town that he's constantly busting through to try and find the treasure.
He also shows up with like a big rucksack. And I think it'd be really funny if it's like, because the taxman was like, are you going to sell all that? He's like, yeah, I'm here to sell my wares. Which he never does.
Never does.
But I feel like it would be really funny if he dumps it out and it's just full of spinach.
Amazing.
Because like, I don't think we need to wait till the end of the movie to get to the spinach.
No.
I genuinely think Act 1 of the movie, if we're doing like just silly set pieces, he shows up to town with his treasure map. That's why he's there. But he ends up staying at the oil residence because I think that makes sense. And it's like, you hear it on a terrible day. Olive Oil just broke off her engagement with Bluto. Bluto shows up. He's like, I said we'd get married and we're getting married. And he goes to like Popeye eats spinach, knocks out Bluto. And I think he should win in Act 1.
Yeah, everyone is stunned. You've defeated the town bully.
Yeah, and then Act 2, we're going to have the competing storylines of the treasure map, because I think that makes perfect sense. He's busting through all the X's, all this other stuff's happening. We're meeting all the weirdos. But I also think it should be Bluto secretly stealing all of the spinach in town.
That's great.
He needs to get all of it away, and then he eats it. It doesn't do anything for him.
Yeah.
Or something. Or hell, he can eat it and it does the same thing for him. I think it should.
Or he could do like a red kryptonite thing where he like poisons the spinach secretly. So the next time Popeye eats the spinach, it makes him like, he gets like skinny spaghetti arms instead or something.
So one of my friends was telling me what the origin of the spinach thing is for Popeye. Mm-hmm. Do you know?
No.
Okay. So he was saying that apparently in some health guide, they made a mistake. And when they were printing the like nutritional value of a bunch of different things, they accidentally printed that spinach has like the same amount of iron as like a steak. And it was like 10 times the amount of iron. And because this guy was like, it was such this well-known thing that Popeye like gets all that iron from spinach and like, oh my God, he gets all this power because of this typo in this like old nutritional manual. And so it's kind of a spoof and parody of that. And now of course everyone believes it, but like it kind of became of like, he gets all like, whatever the line is, like, because I eats me spinach. And it's like, well, Bluto,
strong to the finish, because I eats me spinach.
Because, like, it's all about eating your vegetables, right?
Right.
Kids?
Which is actually, I think, way ahead of its time.
For sure.
For the cartoon and for the comic.
And I'm not just saying this as someone who just wrote a movie where it's important for kids to be able to eat broccoli because that's what lets them communicate with aliens. Which is 100% something I'm doing.
Fantastic.
It's called My Dog Loves Broccoli. It's available now. Buy it, please. WJ rates. But yeah, like, that's the idea. Like, I think Bluto should steal all the spinach, and then everyone in town is getting weaker.
I love it.
And Bluto's getting that much stronger. And that's Act 2, and then Act 3, we have to figure out a way to do it without the spinach until he finally gets the spinach.
Yeah, it'd be cool if somehow the treasure, because I love the flip that the treasure is not like gold doubloons and the thing that we expect, but it's like, maybe it's related to spinach or something like that,
It
or
legitimately
a spinach
could
recipe.
be more spinach.
More spinach.
Well, it's like, Bluto has all the spinach. We can't beat Bluto. Popeye loses to him in Act 2 because Bluto has all the spinach, but he still finds the treasure. And the treasure it's the only kind of treasure I'd ever want. Spinach.
And then he has enough that he can go back and fight Bluto in the big kind of, which I think we got to get more sailing in this movie.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
Popeye the Sailor Man. Like, we could have a big boat fight chase or something at the end.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
So one of my lost episodes that I never recorded, but I like put together my cast list for, because, 2020, is a movie called Capricorn 1.
Oh, yeah.
Which has a plane chase, and it's insane. Like, if you ever, like, the movie's not good, but this plane chase, you're kind of half paying attention to the whole movie, but when that's happening, you're watching. And just the idea of like a ricotta chase, or just like two sailboats like tracking each other down and doing weird shit. And I'd love it if they do the thing where they're like racing on the map and you see them going on a map.
Oh yeah, with a dotted line.
Right, but
following
also it's a dotted line on a map and you have a cartoon and they go around like one of those old-timey sea monsters.
Yeah.
But then you cut back and it's really there. And it's like, oh, gotta get away from this.
Yeah.
I thought those were just fictionational.
I love those kinds of jokes. And you could do a thing where like they're following the dotted lines when he looks on the map, but then he looks up and Bluto has like been throwing out fake dotted lines behind him or something.
Stuff like that. Just like the blending of the cartoon and reality.
That's great. Yeah.
And I think that'd be fun. But like, so then what's happening with Olive Oil? We don't have anything for her to do.
I mean, you definitely have to make Olive Oil. And again, I was pleasantly surprised watching the original movie that Olive is a little more active than you expect from a 1980s movie.
She has agency in that she hates everything.
Right, she hates everything. She's not like a pretty, face.
No.
She's like interesting in that way. And then of course she's the damsel in distress in the third act. So I think you have to make her like more active. I love the idea of getting her out of town, that she wants to leave town. She's trapped in this like weird psycho relationship with Bluto, and Popeye showing up is her chance to kind of get out of town. So she joins the treasure hunt with him.
Well, if Popeye finds treasure, he'll take her out of town with all the treasure he's just gotten.
Which turns
they
out
can
to be
afford to
spinach,
leave town.
Cool. Yeah.
She doesn't know.
Yeah, she didn't care. So I think she could definitely be more involved in that. So it's more like a two-hander of the two of them looking for it.
Yeah.
And then along the way, they can fight and complain and get mad at each other. And fall in
as
love,
well they should.
Which is all great stuff.
Do we have Sweet Pea?
I mean, Sweet Pea's cute. It's a shame Sweet Pea is so young.
Yeah.
Because if Sweet Pea were like 9, that would be awesome. Like it could be...
It's like the weird town orphan running around.
Actually doing stuff.
Yeah.
I worry about them when there's an actual baby there. Like when they stole Sweet Pea in the movie and Popeye is like throws a message in a bottle to like find Sweet Pea somehow. I'm like, that's not enough what you're doing. You need to be physically looking for the baby.
Tearing the town apart.
Bluto does clearly not know how to feed. That child is starving by the time they find the baby. So that's a little weird about the baby.
So no Sweet Pea, and I think I agree with that. Will we have Poop Deck Pappy?
I think for sure.
I think we do, because I think we need to get to where the treasure is hidden.
Yeah.
He's just like, how dare you come in here and get my treasure? It's like, I followed your map. The only person who I left that map to was me boy. Me son.
Oh, my little son.
Why'd you leave me, Pappy? I had to protect my treasure. Fair enough. I understand.
Right. Yeah, he's not leaving him now because he wouldn't eat his spinach when he was 2 years old. He had to protect the treasure.
He had to protect the treasure.
As all men must.
As all men must do. He has to protect the treasure. I do think we need to have Wimpy. I do think having like Olive Oil's whole little family. I don't know what the old Hasidic man's deal was.
It's a little broad. And I guess he's a real character.
I'm sure he is.
But it feels like...
Nonetheless.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a 1920s comic character brought to life.
I think Castor Oil and Wimpy are enough.
Yeah,
and like Ham Bone or whatever his name was.
Yeah, Ham Gravy.
Ham Gravy.
I mean... Yeah, I don't think you need... Like, you could have the town when he first shows up, like in Act 1. You could have some weird, kooky characters and stuff. But I think this is much more fun if the Act 2 is like you're going around in different islands and you're finding spots along the treasure and you're uncovering clues and stuff like that. Running into, like, fun obstacles on different islands. Like, you could have a volcano island. You could have islands with weird creatures.
Well, especially if we start in live action and every single island we go to is a different style of either live action or animation, and that way we get to kind of have this blend of
that's awesome.
Different like worlds and visits and things. And that way we can all have those sorts of things on the map of literally one of the clues is just a black square, and they finally get there and it's just a black and white island. That's what me pappy meant. Or they get there and it's a lump of clay and that entire island is
stop
claymation,
motion,
stop
amazing.
motion. Yeah. And they run into like fucking Gumbo or something.
I love that idea of each island being almost like Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah,
you get to a
exactly.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks island.
Yeah. That would be really fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, stuff like that.
See? It's easy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why are they struggling? But like, in terms of plot, is there anything else we're missing? because it is going to be fairly broad.
Yeah, you have to keep it broad. I think you got to get some like.
How is Wimpy going to be obnoxious, and how is he going to steal burgers?
I mean, I love there's a random thing of like he brings on the boat like I watched this on one of the cartoons. He's got like a little oven and a meat grinder, and he carries like meat with him so he can grind and make his own burgers.
He's constantly, the only thing in the entire world he cares about is burgers.
Yes.
Which was crazy to me. But also there's that moment where he's walking away and he's just like holding it just like between two fingers, just like, I have a burger.
Yes. And then the soup burger, which really stuck in my 9-year-old's brain of like, he's like, you must be really desperate to eat that. It was gross. So, another good Altman lived-in prop. So I definitely think you could have like some comedic stuff with Wimpy.
You can have this joke of, Bluto's stolen all the spinach from the island. The only thing anyone has to eat is burgers. Yay! And it's just Wimpy in the background just cheering.
Yes.
But like everyone's just slowly getting weaker, but Wimpy's getting stronger.
That's interesting. And like a good commentary about like meat culture and you know.
Yeah, and then I mean Castor Oil is just, I'm here too. I'm Castor Oil.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Look at me in my little
the brother could definitely get left behind. I like the idea of having like they're on a boat and they could maybe be picking people up on islands that like they're adding to the team as they go.
Yeah, I mean, we could absolutely do an Avengers of 20s era cartoons.
Like they're pulling in like Betty Boop.
Here's Snagglepuss.
Betty Boop is on the black and white island.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, thank God I get to leave that place.
I don't think we need to do that, but that is very funny. But something like that, just like, heavens to Murgatroyd, I think the map says to exit stage left.
Yogi Bear, no pants. So you gotta have pants on this boat. Boo boo.
No. All they have in this picnic basket is spinach.
We're definitely combining. Is Hanna-Barbera? I think that's a different studio.
I think it's different.
So, but that's the interesting Who Framed Roger Rabbit of it. Do you pull in like some of these?
I'm sure many of them are available, especially since whatever Hanna-Barbera verse that Warner Brothers tried to do, they like the Scoob verse.
Oh,
they immediately they were like, nope, and just bailed out of it.
Which is such a bummer because this is a tangent, but I loved Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law.
Yeah, it's so good.
Such a great idea.
Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law is just such a perfect idea.
Yeah.
And yet. But yeah, we don't have anything to do plot-wise. Do you want to get into casting?
Sure.
All right, well, we got to start with Popeye, obviously. I will also say that I don't think I gender swapped one character, but I didn't make everyone white.
Yeah, I didn't make everyone white.
Okay. So yeah, we'll get into that. But let's start with Popeye. This is so hard.
I think this is the hardest one.
Yeah. How are we going to design Popeye, first of all?
Yeah, I mean, my first instinct was, and I think this is like, if you look around online, people have fan cast like The Rock as Popeye. But I don't love it for this because
I also think he's too tall.
Yeah, I think he's better for Bluto.
I agree.
Like I think he's a better Bluto.
I considered him for Bluto. I have someone else, but yeah, legitimately.
And he's like, he would be physically scary. And I think he plays a good villain. Like he's played a villain a couple of times.
He should play more.
I mean, because it's in my mind recently, I kind of was like, who is funny but also action-y? And I kind of went to like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. I was like, I also kind of want him to be like a song and dance man.
That would be amazing. I mean, Hugh Jackman's probably too old.
He is. But like 20 years ago, Hugh Jackman would have been perfect. Again, I think he's too tall, but like, but like he's got the hairy thing that Robin Williams had, so really but like in terms of design, I'm like, do you want him to have like the weird
the arms are really distracting.
Here's the thing. I think if we have him eating spinach in Act 1 and he gets his cartoon arms,
like
that's
a werewolf.
The thing. Yeah. Yes. I think that's how you do it. Of like it's a cartoony feature, so you make it an aspect of the thing that he does.
Right.
But then, like, when he's weak, you can just you can also have him go, ooh, just like saggy arms. Just...
I mean, that's actually a cool way of doing it. It wasn't like this in the original cartoons, but like you have a guy who looks like a normal guy, and then when he eats the spinach, he becomes like kind of a bulked out, buff version.
Yeah.
That could be cool. So it's like Timothée Chalamet could do
right. Like something like that. Like I did cast someone who has done action movies. So I guess I'll just tell you who I had. Like, I want a guy who kind of can give good chin, I guess I should say. Like, can give you that weird face and, like, give you an interesting character and give you a weird voice. Because that is the sort of character he gave us in Eddie the Eagle. But he's also in Kingsman and he's in Rocket Man.
Okay, I see.
I went with Taron Egerton.
Interesting.
Edgerton? One of the two. Because I'm like, you wise guy, just doing a thing.
And he would disappear into it.
He
would like turn it into a thing.
I think he's the sort of actor where I don't think he'd be improvising as much as Robin Williams, so he'd need a very, very strong script. But I think that's the sort of silliness that I think he would love to portray.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, and I think he clearly wants to do musical, action-y kind of stuff. You feel that on the edges of him.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Rocket Man.
Yeah, totally.
But then, you combine that with, like, the weird characters he wants to play, but he's kind of getting, like, boxed into being a leading man. But he's like, no, let me be the weirdo.
Yeah, he wants to be
I want to be the weirdo.
Yeah.
I don't want the Brad Pitt stuck just being... No, weirdos, for me.
Yeah, like, he would totally do the squinty eye the whole time.
The whole time.
He would not care about that.
No. Who did you have?
I mean, I was leaning towards, like, somebody like Chris Evans, who I think could be funny. Ryan Reynolds, I think, could be funny. I worry that Ryan Reynolds is too old.
Well, maybe. I guess that's the next question of how old do you see Popeye being?
I mean, he looks very old.
He looks very old.
In the cartoons and the comics. I mean, Robin Williams at the time was probably in his early 30s.
Yeah, so that's where I kind of tried to cast. Taron Egerton is 34.
Okay, great.
And my Olive Oil, I think, is 33. So, like, that's kind of what I went for.
That's kind of right. I like Taron Egerton.
Okay. All right, then we'll go with that.
I mean, that's, like, he's more... I think, too, it's like Ryan Reynolds at this point is so himself. It's hard to disappear into a character. Whereas, like,
Has
Taron
he ever disappeared into a character?
Right. It's
Every
like
character he's ever played is Ryan Reynolds.
It's Ryan Reynolds, yeah. It's hard to kind of see him doing, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, it would be the sort of thing where you'd, like Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder, where you need to cover him in prosthetics so we don't know it's him.
Right. And even the whole time you're like, look at Tom Cruise and all those prosthetics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like for Taron Egerton, you would not need to put prosthetics on him. He would just be making the crazy face the whole time.
He would do it, for sure.
And I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
But then we've got Olive Oil. Who's our early 30s Olive Oil?
I immediately went to Zendaya.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the obvious
And she
thing.
looks like Olive Oil.
She could very
She's got that
be.
body type. The Shelley Duvall, like, very long neck.
Yes.
Very kind of willowy. I think she's very funny.
I think she is,
when
too.
she wants to be, like, you know.
I strongly consider her. The only reason I potentially... and I was like, there's a decent chance that Matt's going to come in with Zendaya, so I was like, I wanted someone else.
Right.
But, like, the only reason I would potentially not go with it is, like, the idea of her being a damsel in distress...
But see, I don't think you do Olive Oil that way.
Okay, how would
I
you...
think it's a two-hander. I think it's like she is like working with him to get the treasure. She has something, like maybe she's...
I'm going to work with you to get this treasure because when we have this treasure, we'll be able to get off this island.
Right, maybe she like is a cartographer or an archaeologist or something. Like she's got those kinds of skills where it's like, I know these islands, you have the map.
Don't be ridiculous. She's not
up.
A cartographer. She's not anything else. She's Olive Oil. She's the people person. She's the one who's going to be able to help introduce Popeye to all the different people because she's Olive Oil. She's the social lubricant.
I see what you did there.
I went with a comedic actress. She's in Emily in Paris. She had a role in Only Murders in the Building, but I really saw her in Joyride. Her name is Ashley Park.
Oh, Ashley Park is great.
Yeah. I think we'll probably go with Zendaya. I feel like that probably makes sense. But
one thing I love with going in the Ashley Park route is I think this movie should exist in a very like multicultural
100%.
Kind of like world.
Yes.
And
this kind of throws a wrench into my casting for castor oil, but we'll get to that.
See, I think that's fun though. I think that kind of adds to the whole like...
Well, I had a really hard time with castor oil until I was like, fuck it, this guy.
All right, so tell me who you have.
For castor oil?
Yeah.
I just was like, well, it's Ashley Park. I know they're not related, but it'd be really funny. Like, here's Randall Park, who is like 20 years older than Ashley Park.
Could be her dad, probably.
Definitely could be. But just the idea of like, and I know Randall Park would do it, of just being in like the shorts and the dumb hat, just being like, oh, what are we doing today, guys? Hey, Castor. No, we can do it. Here's my close-up magic.
I do like that. I mean, somebody that I was thinking of for that one, and I'm thinking of it right now, so I'm blanking on his name, but it's the guy who was, he's in I Think You Should Leave, and he was in the Clint Eastwood movie where he was the guy who found the bomb at the Atlanta Stadium.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I know who you're talking about. I love who you're talking about. He's my Wimpy.
Oh, nice.
That's who Paul Walter Hauser.
Paul Walter Hauser.
Is who I have for Wimpy.
Okay.
because of the way he portrayed his character in The After Party.
Yes.
In The After Party, he's like, I'm kind of doing my own thing right now, but I'm a crazy kooky character, but we don't know where I'm at exactly.
He was awesome in I, Tonya, if you saw that. Yeah.
So literally I have Paul Walter Hauser, The After Party, Cobra Kai, I, Tonya.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal actor. He's good in everything he does. I love putting him in
Super
things.
funny.
I would push... I mean, I have him for Wimpy, but I guess we could have him for Castor.
I think Wimpy's a bigger part.
Yeah.
I think Castor Oil, like, I actually wasn't even thinking of him, like, coming along on the journey. Like, you just meet him in a couple scenes.
Yeah, and then you, like, leave him behind, and then he's like, hey, guys, I'm ready to come on the... Oh.
And, like, the boat's chugging away in the distance.
Yeah.
That's good.
Like, Castor Oil is there to be 3 punchlines, and that's
Yes,
it.
for sure.
So then that means that we probably got to go with someone else. But we'll get to Castor Oil later. Who do you have for your Bluto? Bluto is tough.
Yeah, when I was thinking about The Rock, I was thinking... I didn't like him for Popeye, but I think he'd be really good as Bluto.
He would.
He would rock that, whatever that beard is that doesn't have the mustache connected to it.
I don't know that I've ever seen him with facial hair.
Yeah, he had a goatee in Fast and Furious.
Oh, yeah.
Like kind of the long goatee.
No, you're right. Yeah. I also agree that it needs to be a wrestler. It needs to be a large wrestler.
Yeah.
Because how old is The Rock at this point? 50 or something?
Probably.
And because I also was like, The Rock would be really good, but I don't want him to be 20 years older than Olive Oil.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And so I was like, I ended up finding a wrestler who's like 25. Because I had a friend who recommended a wrestler, and everything about this guy was perfect. I was like, oh my god, this guy's perfect. Everything about him is so good. He's 54. Shit.
Well, I did have another name who was just in Roadhouse, and he is younger and scary.
Oh, yeah?
Which is Conor McGregor, who is an actual ultimate fighter guy. And he's the villain in the new Roadhouse movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Is he?
And when you meet him, he's like full on naked for like the whole first scene.
Why?
Just to show that he doesn't care. Like he's a psychopath, basically. But this guy he would be very scary as Bluto. Not funny as Bluto, but he'd be like a good, scary...
Yeah, probably. I tried to get someone who was extremely tall. I don't know how tall Conor McGregor is.
I don't think he's a big guy. Usually
he's 5'9".
Yeah. Usually those guys, it's more about being compact and like getting low.
But yeah, so like Conor McGregor is 36 years old, so he's exactly the right age. UFC has hoped that Conor McGregor could fight or something, I'm sure. Anyway, the wrestler that I have, his given name is Bronson Rechsteiner, aka Braun Breaker.
I don't know who that is.
He's like a 25-year-old who's like 6'5", just a big man.
Huge.
Because the person I wanted was, I think his name is Mark Henry. And Mark Henry was like just another large guy with a huge beard.
Yeah.
And he at some point was the strongest man in the world.
Wow.
And then I see him giving a speech honoring John Cena, who was someone else I considered.
John Cena was coming to mind.
Yeah, I also think John Cena's probably a little bit too old.
Yeah, he's very funny though.
He is. John Cena's perfect for this because he's funny.
Yeah.
But this guy was like, in 2013, honoring John Cena's like, this was what my career was. I was like, oh no, if 11 years ago you're giving a retrospective on your career, you're probably 54. Oh no. Bluto and Popeye were the two I cast last because they were so hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I don't know anything about Conor McGregor. I feel like we'd have to make him big.
Yeah, it's all you could do the Hobbit thing where he's always like 2 feet closer to the camera than all the other actors.
I am 1 month and 8 days older than Conor McGregor.
Nice.
That is
you
so
could take
funny.
him.
Well, it looks like he's the sort of person who would be like my older brother, like who's been through some shit and maybe went to jail.
He's scary in Roadhouse.
Yeah,
he is.
I mean, if you want a different kind of scary, who looks nothing like the Bluto from the cartoon,
right? I
think Conor McGregor is correct. Especially if you do like the kind of trick of like, oh, Conor McGregor, he's not that tall. And then as he gets intimidating, he just like literally grows and gets small, especially for doing a blend.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know anything about Conor McGregor. We'll go with him. I have Castor Oil, Taxman, and Poop Deck Pappy. Is there anyone else that you have that I don't?
I had Poop Deck Pappy.
Okay.
No, I didn't have any other. I just went for like the main.
Who'd you have for your Poop Deck Pappy?
I went big, but I think he would do it. De Niro.
Wild. Okay. Okay, interesting. I also think he would do it. And I could see him doing the one eye closed, having a silly time.
And you do a reveal, like you do like a Godfather, Blofeld reveal
Sure.
of like who is in the chair talking like this, and you reveal it's the ultimate tough guy.
I mean, theoretically, at that point, you could also do Sylvester Stallone.
Sure.
Oh man, those are both very funny. Because we get the image of the Popeye in this movie where he's staring. Who was the guy who played him in the movie?
Oh, Ray Walston.
Ray Walston. It's Robin Williams and Ray Walston staring at each other, and it's like, yeah, they're the same guy. You're the cartoon version of him aged up.
Yeah.
I was like, who could play an older version of Taron Egerton?
Yes.
And I was like, he doesn't have this, like, his face is oval and not square, but you could see him making the exact same face Taron Egerton is making, and I think it'd be very funny. And so I went with Woody Harrelson.
Oh, yeah, good.
But, like, I mean, if you want to, like, have someone show up, Act 3, and just be like, turn around his chair being like, I'm here to protect my treasure. I got nothing against, that's so funny. Sure, fuck it, why not?
We're getting De Niro. It's total stunt casting.
Yeah, of course it is.
That's the kind of thing, too, though. Like, I remember watching those scenes as a kid, and you'd see someone who was clearly, like, we're supposed to know who that is. But they're only in one scene, and, like, it's like Marlon Brando in Superman. You're like, why am I feel like this guy is somebody important.
My season finale last year was It's a Mad, 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 Mad World with my guest, Michelle Iantuono. And there's some moments in the movie where some random guy shows up in the car and says, hey, do you guys need any help? And we're like, we're good. Aw. And he drives off and it's like, that's definitely somebody.
Right.
But yeah, something like that.
Yeah. James Mason was in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Right.
He did a day.
Exactly. But yeah, so then I have the Tax Man, which it sounds like you don't have.
Did not have the Tax Man, but I could give me yours and then I'll think of somebody who'd be a good tax
Divine
man.
Joy Randolph.
I love that. That's great.
I'm just like, you want someone who's like going to go around threatening people and like taking their money? Divine Joy.
In that same vein, like RuPaul would be great.
Yeah, RuPaul, I have some issues with some of the things that RuPaul has said. So I would prefer to not. I would push us towards Divine for this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Who do we want for Castor Oil? Who's our, because it could be anybody.
Yeah.
I think Randall Park is our bar. Let's see if we can pass it.
I mean, I like somebody funny and quirky, like...
Funny and quirky who is not white.
Yes. So what about Kenan Thompson?
Sure. I'm okay with that. Kenan Thompson shows up. It's like, hey, I'm here to be in the movie.
This is what I'm doing with my summer off from Saturday Night Live, which he clearly has some kind of contract he can never leave.
He's been asked. He's like, I like it here.
Yeah.
Why would I go? This is amazing.
It's a great job.
I love this.
Yeah.
Great. Kenan Thompson. No notes. That's amazing. That brings us to our writer and director. Now I have a writing team and then a separate director. Do you have that? Do you have a hyphenate? Because I almost had a hyphenate.
I had a hyphenate, but I could add on a writer to it.
Okay. So then let me tell you about my writers,
Yeah.
and then you'll tell me about your hyphenate, and then we'll do my director.
I could do writers, though, because I think the person I'm thinking of as a director has done directing, but they've also written some stuff, but they've directed stuff.
That's true of my director as well.
Okay.
Really, it's just the one thing, but he both wrote and directed it. We'll get to that. My writers are the writing team of Pat Casey and Josh Miller, because they did the Sonic movies, and they also did Violent Night.
Great.
And when you think of those two things combined, Popeye makes sense.
Yeah.
They've done the adaptation, they've done the kind of the blend with animation, once they figured out how to draw Sonic right.
Yes.
And then you also get like the weird, crazy action movie of Violent Night, which now that I think about, Randall Park's in that, right? Who's the person? No, it's not Randall Park. It's John Leguizamo. That's what I'm thinking of.
He's the villain.
Yeah, John Leguizamo's the villain. I don't know why I thought it was Randall Park, but yeah. John Leguizamo would be fun.
He would be fun.
Getting distracted.
Yeah.
Because John Leguizamo loved, he was a fucking crazy demon in Spawn.
Yeah, great. Don't even know it's him.
Yeah, no, you don't. You don't until someone tells you a year later, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I had in mind for writers. I think they'd be fun, and I think that would just be a silly thing to do. But tell me who you had.
I was thinking, and this is like, they're a huge get, but when you think about that kind of melange of pulling in different animation styles and stuff.
Good word.
I went to Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Sure.
which because I think they have such a great record too of taking IP that you think like, okay, really, this is tired. Like we're gonna make a movie about Legos. We're gonna make 21 Jump Street again, and they just knock it out of the park, and it's really funny.
That's why 25 to 33% of the people who come in to pitch me will suggest Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
We all clearly want to work with Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and we're not just saying that because we're recording this on my friend Chris Lord, previous guest of the show's birthday.
Perfect.
Which is unrelated, but yeah, obviously Phil Lord, Chris Miller would be very good. So my director has only done really the one project that he both wrote and directed. Okay. And it's a project that I'm going to guess 80 to 90% of the people listening right now have not heard of, but it's been recommended to me several times as being just absolute batshit comedy and silliness, because it's this movie called Hundreds of Beavers.
Oh, I've not seen this, but I've seen the trailer for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
it's this movie where it's like, I think we need to get all-star writers, but I think we need to get a director who's going to do absolute crazy zaniness and isn't beholden to like... Because like there's an idea of like, well, you want to do something cartoony of like, there's a world where you get a Wes Anderson movie, but then like Popeye is, as a character, not symmetrical. So you can't get like a Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson's not going to do it.
No, it's not aesthetic.
Yeah.
But like that sort of idea of like... And I knew that there was a chance that we're not going to go with him because, like, he's done one thing, and maybe that's his one thing.
Just from seeing his trailer, that guy clearly loves, like, Max Fleischman 1920s cartoons.
Yeah.
That animation style.
And that's the whole, like, concept of, like, if he does a crazy indie that gets really popular and then gets handed an IP, this is kind of the IP he's going to get handed.
Yeah, this would be kind of... And it's the kind of assignment where it's like, this is your shot. Like, he could potentially really crush it.
Of course.
Because he's super hungry for it.
So I'll hand this to you. We have, and technically he's also a writer. So like we have 3 different things for you to choose from. We have Pat Casey, Josh Miller, we have Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and we have Mike Cheslick.
Can I do my director though? Can I suggest my director?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought that they were your pitch for both writer and director.
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I had another pitch for a director.
Who's your director?
Because they sometimes write stuff like they wrote Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and didn't direct it.
I didn't realize that they didn't. I thought they directed it.
There was like, I think they co-directed the first one. One of them co-directed the first one, and then they didn't do the second one.
I believe you're correct.
But I was just thinking in the vein of people who could do really good, fun, cartoony style action, and I went to Edgar Wright. And like Scott Pilgrim, Shaun of the Dead.
I mean, Scott Pilgrim is... Legitimately, Scott Pilgrim is the comp.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good comp. I think here's what I would suggest. I think if we got Mike Cheslick to write and then Edgar Wright to direct.
Interesting. That's cool.
That's how I would do it.
Yeah.
Because you get the Edgar Wright stylization while with the absolutely sideways thinking of Mike Cheslick.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's the way we go about doing this.
What about the music? Do you get someone to do music?
We should get someone to do music. I don't have anything for that. Who do you have to do music?
I wrote down immediately Lin-Manuel Miranda, which is probably super cliched at this point, but...
And also, I know things about him.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He's not a bad guy, but he's also not the greatest guy.
No, that's always disappointing. But I was thinking like Lin-Manuel Miranda inspired sea shanty hip-hop songs.
I mean, you could do that, but the actual answer is Weird Al. of like, who else plays the accordion but sailors?
That's true.
I don't think either of those are the correct choice. I feel like there's so many different sea shanties out there right now that are very, very popular. Who popularized the sea shanty? Because like that's a whole music genre to itself.
You're talking about the TikTok sea shanty?
Sure,
thing?
Why not?
The Wellerman kid from he was like I think he was like a postal carrier.
Was he?
And he just like sang this in a resonant building because he loves sea shanties, and then it went viral. And
great.
I don't know what he's doing now.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay,
he got some sea shanty album or something.
Bad example. Yeah. Okay. Oh man, who would be silly songs?
Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
What's another musical you like?
In terms of, that's a great question. I mean, classics, I love, like, Singing in the Rain, I think is amazing and really holds up.
Kind of meant current, so we could pull the whoever.
Yeah. I'm trying to wrap myself up. Like, current musical, I actually think, and this is actually an interesting choice too, like, the music for Wonka I thought was surprisingly good.
Oh yeah, who did the music for Wonka?
I know it was directed by the same guy who did Paddington and Paddington 2.
Right, but I know he didn't do the music.
Yeah, I don't know who did the music for that one.
Let's find out. Neil Hannon, frontman of the Divine Comedy, provided 7 original songs for the film in his Hollywood debut.
Okay.
John Talbot scored the incidental music, and the soundtrack also featured Leslie Bricusse and Anthony Newley's Pure Imagination. But it sounds like the answer is Neil Hannon of the Divine Comedy.
Another interesting person would be like Tim Minchin, who did the music for
Tim Minchin's good.
Roald Dahl's Matilda, and does a lot of like comedic, but he knows how to like craft a whole.
Tim Minchin's very
score.
funny. I'm more than happy to go to.
I think that's really fun.
Who's the other British comedy musician with like just hair here and like a goatee?
I don't know.
The name I'm looking for is Bill Bailey.
Okay. Won't you come home, Bill Bailey?
Kind of. So Bill Bailey's another British comedy musician who's very, very funny and incredible musician. But I think Tim Minchin is better. So let's go with Tim Minchin.
Awesome.
I'm going to look up one thing because I suddenly had a timeline of Conor McGregor controversies and arrests.
Oh, no.
Conor McGregor won't face charges after sexual assault.
Oh, God.
All right, so we can't go with Conor McGregor because
No.
I just realized that was a thing. I'll just put us back at... I'm going to go through this again, just to be on the safe side.
Sure.
So our cast is... Popeye will be Taron Egerton. Olive Oil will be Zendaya. Bluto will be Braun Breaker. Wimpy will be Paul Walter Hauser. Poop Deck Pappy will be Robert De Niro. The Taxman will be Divine Joy Randolph. Castor Oil will be Keenan Thompson. All of this will be written by Mike Cheslick and then directed by Edgar Wright with music from Tim Minchin.
Amazing.
That's Popeye. Matt, you going to go see this movie?
Opening night.
Yeah! Thank you so much for being my guest and for having me watch this movie for the first time. I've never seen it before.
It's definitely something I think you need to watch as a kid. Like, there's people who love this movie because they saw it as a kid and it, like, lodges in. As an adult, you're kind of like, what am I doing with my time?
Because I went in with that. I was like, I've heard from so many different people, a lot of comedian people who like, this is an incredible movie, you have to see it.
Yes.
And I don't know that that's true.
No.
But it was fun. And just like, it's a cartoon come to life. And it's fascinating.
Yeah, we need more of those, for sure.
But, so this episode is going to come out 4 weeks from today. So that's going to be September 17th. For anyone listening, promote social medias and anything else you'd like them to be doing.
Yeah, September 17th, I will be doing a play that opens that week. So if you're listening to this on September 17th, maybe there are still tickets. Go, buy tickets.
I hope there's not, though.
That's what I hope too. I'll be stressed if there's still tickets available. And then I have a new book coming out in October for pre-order called Time Travel for Beginners.
And if people wanted to get Time Travel for Beginners, where would they go do that?
I think I'm going to do Kickstarter. So go to Kickstarter, type Time Travel for Beginners. It will be there.
And we know some friends really like Kickstarter.
Yes.
For other things, but books also good.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's exciting. How do you feel about it?
It's good. It was the hardest book I've ever written because
Oh.
it was about time travel, which I know, big surprise. But it was a lot of fun because I got to do all the time travel stuff that whenever I watch time travel movies that pissed me off, I got to correct all that. So that was good. So I've written the perfect time travel book. There's no flaws or errors about time travel.
All right. That's interesting. I'm into that. All right. Cool. And then social media?
Yeah, I'm on all the social medias, unfortunately. Matt Harry MH at all of them.
Cool. I would normally have people spell their names, but I feel like yours is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's Harry, MATTHARRY, like the first name, MH.
Great. If anyone is interested in following me, I am on Instagram at Ideal Remake, like the name of the podcast you're listening to right now. Or you can find me on BlueSky at Sam Gasch, SAMGASCH. Yeah, that's it. So again, Matt, thank you so much for being my guest this episode. We will end this episode the same way we end every episode.
Popeye laugh?
Well, I was going to say, what is your favorite quote from the movie Popeye? But it may as well be...